Week 6, Lesson 7. Okay, so last year in Algebra 2, you might have known these to be called infinite geometric series. In pre-calculus, and as you get further on in math, they won't be called that anymore. They will be called convergent. Okay, so there's a couple conditions for a series to be convergent. Okay, number one, the ratio has to be within this range. Okay, if you end up with a ratio that's 5/4 or 8/3, that won't work. All right, and notice that there is no subscript here on this S. It's not the sum of the first 10 or the first 100 or even the first million. It's the sum of all of them. All right, an infinite. All right, and it says it right here, an infinite geometric series. All right, so the first thing you have to do if you want to use this formula is make sure that it's got the right ratio. So if you're looking at this particular example, the ratio, right, to get from one term to the next is 1/2. So this formula will work. So the sum is the first term over 1 minus the ratio, which in this case is going to be 10 over 1/2 or 20. Okay, what that means is if you add up all the numbers, it doesn't matter how many you add, right? 1 million, 2 million, 5 trillion, the sum is still going to be 20. Okay, so this is asking, so what values of x would make this series converge? Okay, so let's expand this out just a little bit so you can kind of see what it looks like. When you plug in 1, right, that's the first number to plug in, you get 1 plus x over 2. Okay, when you plug in 2, right, the next number that you're supposed to plug in, you get 1 plus x over 2 squared. And when you plug in 3, you get 1 plus x over 2 to the third, etc. So once you have this written out, it's really easy to see, at least I think it is, that this is the first term, and that the ratio, right, if I'm trying to figure out what to multiply by, is 1 plus x over 2. Okay, now if I want this to converge, that means that this ratio, 1 plus x over 2, has to be between -1 and +1. Okay, so to simplify, sorry, wrong thing, here we go. To simplify that, I'm going to subtract 1 from all 3 sides. And I'm going to multiply all 3 sides by 2. And you can see that in this range is when that series will converge. Okay, now there's another question, right? Don't forget to answer all the questions. It says, what is the sum, what is the sum when x is -1/2? So let's actually plug that in and see what happens. Sorry, I'm trying to move this up and give myself some room. Okay, so here we go. The sum is equal to 1 plus x over 2 over 1 minus 1 plus x over 2. This is just the formula, right? This is the first term over 1 minus the ratio. And now let me actually plug in that -1.5. So 1 plus -1.5 over 2, 1 minus 1 plus -1.5 over 2. Again, breaking out a calculator, right? Doing all of that, watch out for parentheses, watch out for the numerator and the denominator. You should get an answer of 1/3. All right, so then this last problem, right, which is all on the whole back page, it says there's a geometric series that converges to 8. Okay, in other words, the sum is 8. Okay, and they tell you the second term. They don't tell you the first, which is kind of what we need. But I know that if you take the first term and multiply by the ratio, you get the second term. Which means if I plug in the second term, I should be able to figure out what the first term is, right? I just have to divide by r, right? Dividing by r. The first term is -5 over 2r. Okay, so now I've got the first term and I've got the sum. I should be able to figure out what the ratio is because I have this formula, the first term over 1 minus r. So let's plug in what we know. We know 8 is the sum. We know the first term is -5 over 2r and we are dividing by 1 minus r. Okay, this over here, let me highlight it in pink. This is a complex fraction. Okay, to simplify the complex fraction, you probably should put this over 1. And remember that dividing by a fraction is the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. Okay, so now I'm going to move this up again. I'm going to put this 8 over 1 and I'm going to cross multiply. So I end up with 16r not squared, 16r minus 16r squared equals -5. Okay, moving everything to one side so that it equals 0, I have 16r squared minus 16r minus 5. Okay, that should factor, and again, I have this done on my paper. It's not like I can miraculously factor this quickly, okay? And I end up with a couple different answers, all right? For this one, I get r equals 5/4, and for this one, I get r equals -1/4, okay? Please keep in mind, it says that the series converges, which means there's a very particular range of values that r can have. It has to be between -1 and +1, and this does not work, all right? It has to be again, between -1 and +1. This is the only r value that works.